9 chapters, and now they don't even want to send it to second reading. They want to send it to committee study right away. But it took them 18 months, Madam Speaker, to finally table this huge document, which aims to counteract a bill that they had previously voted for. So it's just totally inconsistent.
Déclaration de député.
Member statements.
L'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the weekend at the Congress of the Fédération Professionnelle des Journalistes du Québec, one of our Hill correspondents, Christopher Nardi, won the Arthur Prévost Bursary celebrating succession in journalism. Congratulations, Mr. Nardi. You have a wonderful career ahead of you, but this government is going to have to show a little more vision. Print media, is it an obsolete business model? Well, that's what the Minister of Heritage seems to think. The value of journalism, according to this minister, is measured in shareholder profits. And yet she should realize, in an era of fake news and given the rise in populism, print media is more important than ever. It is the watchdog of our democracy, but also of discipline, ethics, and integrity of our leaders. Rather than give taxpayer money to entertainment multinationals, the minister should draw on the quality of work of Mr. Nardi and invest in keeping a strong, free print media serving the people in all our regions. The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle.
Financial Literacy Month, and I'm delighted to thank all ministers, senators, and members who dropped by the reception hosted by the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada here at Parliament. The first ever kick-off event since Financial Literacy Month was established in 2011.
About 20 representatives of financial literacy organizations held kiosks to explain their mission and to launch Financial Literacy Month in November under the theme, It Pays to Know. As a specialist in financial literacy, it was an honor for me to sponsor this event on behalf of the financial well-being of all Canadians.
A terrific opportunity to highlight our national strategy for financial literacy and to talk about ways we can update it by applying GBA Plus lens. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, recently we celebrated the 60th anniversary of bringing the National Research Universal, or the NRU, online at Chalk River in Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. As the longest-serving nuclear research reactor in the world, the NRU has made substantial contributions to every area of scientific research worldwide. The NRU allowed for the creation of a brand new field, nuclear medicine. Through research and the creation of medical isotopes, 60 million patients a year and over 500 million patients since 1957 have been treated with isotopes from the NRU. Design and testing of the CANDU nuclear power reactor took place at the NRU. Now, over half of Ontario's power is greenhouse gas emission-free nuclear power. Sadly, the NRU is scheduled to end operations in 2018 with no replacement in the works. I invite all members to join me in congratulating the people who worked with the NRU for your many years of dedication. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Boniface-Saint-Vital. Mr. Speaker, every year on November 16th, the Métis community of Manitoba gathers at the Saint-Boniface Cathedral Cemetery to commemorate the anniversary of Louis Riel's death. One of the great leaders of his time, Louis Riel defended the rights of Francophones and Métis when Manitoba joined Confederation.
Is the father of Manitoba, and we gather to commemorate his death every year in St. Boniface. I stand here today in the House of Commons and remember that Louis Riel was never allowed this privilege. In spite of being elected 3 times as MP for Provencher, Riel was never granted access to this chamber. So it is with great pride today that as a Métis Member of Parliament, I recognize and honor Louis Riel today. We are a government that will continue to make great progress in reconciling errors of the past with the Métis Nation. Merci, thank you, miigwech.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, today, November 20th, is Universal Children's Day. In 1954, the day was set aside by the United Nations to promote international awareness of children's issues and remind us of our obligation to improve child welfare worldwide. Universal Children's Day offers the opportunity to advocate, inspire, promote, and celebrate children's rights. It is our responsibility to engage in actions to create a better world for our children. As a member of the All-Party Anti-Poverty Caucus, I invite MPs to join in a breakfast panel discussion on child poverty in Canada in room 256S Centre Block tomorrow morning. Everyone is welcome. The panelists are from Campaign 2000, Bread Not Stones, and Citizens for Public Justice. These groups work with all parties to fulfill Ed Broadbent's motion, passed unanimously in this House in 1989, to end child poverty by the year 2000 all across this country. And Mr. Speaker, don't let them tell you it can't be done.
Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Senator Tobias Enverga was the first Filipino-Canadian elected in the GTA, and in 2012 he became the first senator of Filipino heritage. Shortly after he was appointed to the Senate, I had the pleasure to meet him in my role as Vice Chair of the Canada-Philippines Friendship Group. The senator did a lot of fine work in the Senate, in particular on the issue of persons with disabilities. For me, it was his leadership in bringing Filipino heritage to Parliament Hill, where I got to know him. As co-chairs of the Philippine Friendship Group, the senator and I worked together in making sure that there was a special celebration recognizing Philippine independence every year on Parliament Hill. To be fair, he was the one that really drove the event. Recently, I had 100 visitors from St. Peter's Church in Winnipeg here, and 90% of them were of Filipino heritage. Senator Enverga happily took us into the Senate chamber, and you could see the immense pride from the group as they sat in his chair and posed for pictures with the late senator. Senator Enverga was a true Canadian who embraced our diversity. He will be missed, and on behalf of my colleagues, I offer our condolences and prayers to his wife, Frosmer, his 3 daughters, other family members, and many friends. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness I rise today to honour the life of Corporal Nolan Caribou. Corporal Caribou was killed yesterday during a training accident at CFB Shiloh. Corporal Caribou was a reservist and an infantryman in the Royal Winnipeg Rifles of the 38th Canadian Brigade. The training of the Canadian Armed Forces members is integral to the defence of our country. This training can be risky, but helps ensure the readiness of the Canadian Armed Forces. CFB Shiloh is a main training hub and helps train the men and women of the Canadian Forces to ensure that they are prepared to defend our country and our values at home and abroad. The loss of Corporal Nolan Caribou is a large blow to the Royal Winnipeg Rifles, also known as the Little Black Devils. He'll be missed at the Armory, at the Parade Hall, and in the lives of the men and women he served with. May the motto of his regiment, HoC Ase Nominati, named by the enemy, remain in the hearts of all that he served with. On behalf of the official opposition and all parliamentarians, I extend our sincerest condolences to Corporal Caribou's family, colleagues, and his loved ones.
Honourable Member for Beaches East York.
Mr. Speaker, the neighbourhood group has provided support to Toronto neighbourhoods since 1911, including in Beaches East York. Its mission is to serve people at every stage of their lives and to promote independence and dignity. In the last year, the neighbourhood group staff and its 1,300 dedicated volunteers have helped 31,000 clients across Toronto through 47 unique programs. These include personal support home care for over 2,000 people, helping almost 7,000 vulnerable people obtain lost or stolen ID, delivering over 28,000 Meals on Wheels, serving an additional 6,000 meals, and helping 759 people find work and 224 return to school. The organization has also sponsored and supported 3 Syrian refugee families. Recently, our government has committed over $1 million in funding over 29 months to the neighbourhood group to support its Youth Works program. Since 2011, this program has helped youth through skills training and work experience to become gainfully employed and financially independent. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to join me in thanking the neighbourhood group for the important role it continues to play across our city and in Beaches East York.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, beginning today and continuing this week, the Ukrainian community, along with many Canadians, are commemorating the millions of victims of the 1932-33 Holodomor genocide and the forced starvation of millions of Ukrainians by Stalin's dictatorship. I encourage all members to join me today in visiting the Holodomor National Awareness Tour mobile bus classroom located just at the foot of East Block for an interactive education on the genocide and to attend the special commemoration this evening at 6:30 p.m. in Center Block in room 238S. Please join me in giving our heartfelt thanks to Bogdan Onishchuk and my uncle Denny Durovich for their leadership and vision in creating the mobile classroom with the aim of increasing Holodomor awareness across Canada. I thank them and the Ukrainian Canadian Congress for ensuring that the memory of those who died will never be forgotten, and for reminding us that we each play a role not only in fighting hate and discrimination everywhere in the world, but in promoting the values of freedom, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Vichnaya pamyat. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Today I rise to pay tribute to the legendary Lowell Green. Lowell's millions of radio listeners know him for his strong and well-researched arguments, but there's more. Parliament owes him a debt of gratitude. 50 years ago, he led the campaign to make the Centennial Flame permanent. He co-founded Big Brothers of Ottawa and brought the city its Santa Claus parade that provides many gifts to children who would otherwise have none. He worked with the Drug Addiction Research Council to help struggling youth turn their lives around. He even raised $200,000 to help young Aiden receive life-saving and rare medical treatment south of the border. For that, the Senate will award Lowell the Canada 150 Award this week. On behalf of Parliament, the citizens of Carleton, and people across the Ottawa Valley, I say a well-deserved thank you to Lowell Green and congratulations.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the proud member for Alfred Pellan and Laval, I'd like to highlight the presence on Parliament Hill today of the Nomad, the men's basketball team from Collège Montmorency in Laval. And I would like to take this opportunity to underscore the importance of sports for our young people and its positive and formative impact on them that they acquire through the discipline and team spirit that they practice when participating in sports. The Nomads are the national champions of the Canadian Collegiate Athletic Association Men's Basketball National Championship.
Defend their title on home court as they will host next season of the CAA Men's Basketball National Championship from March 14 to 17, 2018. I would like to thank the coaches who help our athletes reach their full potential, and I'm confident that the Nomads will give us a breathtaking performance next March. Please join me in congratulating them on their national champions title and welcoming them on the Hill.
Member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Mr. Speaker, established in 1967 to highlight the contributions of incredible Canadians, the Order of Canada is our country's highest civilian honour. It's why I'm fiercely proud to recognize an individual who has worked tirelessly to build and strengthen his community, Nova Scotia and all of Canada. Chief Terrence Paul of Member 2 First Nation has dedicated his life to ensuring his constituents have a better and brighter future. For over 3 decades, Chief Paul has served as a leader and member of Indigenous advisory committees and has championed the preservation of language and history through education. Member 2 is flourishing, and due to Chief Paul's leadership, Member 2 First Nation had the honour of becoming the first Indigenous community in the world to be certified under the International Organization for Standardization and Recognition of its efficient and sustainable growth. Last week, Chief Paul was invested into the Order of Canada, recognized for his outstanding achievements, dedication to his community, and service to the nation. I congratulate Chief Paul and the 43 great Canadians who received this honour.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take a moment to underscore the excellence of several businesses in my riding who stood out in a number of recent galas. At the Quebec Job Creators Gala that took place on the 4th of October last, 2 businesses from our riding won a prestigious award. These were the Canard du Lac Brome from Asbestos Business, that won the Grand Prix Coup de Coeur and Créateur de Prospérité, and the Anderson Group from Chesterville, winner in the champion category. On the 9th of November last, we had our first edition of the Manufacturier Maurice Cent du Québec Gala. 3 other businesses won great honors, and allow me to name them: Cascade from Kingsley Falls, as well as Porte Paris and Saint-Marthe from Victoriaville. I am so proud to have such devoted businesses and business people in my riding who are involved in their community and care about our development. These job creators participate actively in our economy and showcase Quebec talent here and throughout the world. Thank you and congratulations to you all.
Honorable Member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, last week the global community was saddened to hear the deadly earthquake in the Iran-Iraq border region. With over 500 dead, thousands injured, and thousands more rendered homeless, the 7.3 magnitude earthquake represents one of the deadliest natural disasters of the past year. As is always the case when faced with unspeakable tragedy, Canadians, including countless individuals in my riding of Willowdale, have responded with compassion and generosity. And for Canadians still looking to contribute towards the humanitarian assistance and relief efforts, please contact the Canadian Red Cross, Paradise Charity Group, IDRF Canada, and Action Against Hunger for more details on how you can help. I would ask everyone to give generously in this time of need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, today I'm wearing the blue ribbon made by Espace-sur-Roi in honor of the International Children's Rights Day. These rights are contained in a UN convention that was ratified by Canada. The convention includes a right to education, to health, and to equal opportunities for children. Here in Ottawa, a national summit will begin tomorrow, and I am proud to support the initiative to create a Canadian Charter for Children. Several schools in my riding are organizing sessions to raise the awareness of children in schools such as Edgar Hébert, Notre-Dame de Saint-Esprit, and the École Centrale de Saint-Antoine-Abbé. But how is it that our country is not committed to the entire convention? Not all Indigenous children have access to drinking water, to the safety of home, or to education. Not all children are heard, despite their repeated requests to be able to participate in democracy. Too many children go to school hungry. Why is it that in 2017, in such a wealthy country, we are still at that point? I would call on all my colleagues to work together so that children's rights are respected all over.
Of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of our Conservative family to recognize the sudden and terribly sad passing of our friend and colleague, Senator Tobias Nverga.
Tobias was a much-loved member of our political life here in Ottawa, and he was a friend of so many people in Canada, in particular within the proud Filipino-Canadian community. There have been so many tributes in memory of a man who was able to make sure that everyone felt welcome and appreciated.
Same work ethic and unstoppable optimism that can be found in the Filipino-Canadian community across the country, a community for which he had an abiding affection. The senator was a trailblazer, the first Filipino-Canadian senator, the first Filipino-Canadian to win election to any office in the City of Toronto, and a vast body of charitable work in support of the relationship between Canada and the Philippines. Senator Nverga will be deeply missed. Our thoughts and prayers, and those of every member of the House, are with his wife, Rosemary, and their 3 children. May he rest in peace, and may his memory long be a blessing to those who knew and loved him.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, last week I participated in UNICEF's Bring Your MP to School Day. The students at Monsignor Haller, St. Aloysius, Cardinal Leger, Hespeler, and Girl Public School asked some great questions. Today is the anniversary of the General Assembly's adoption of the Declaration of the Rights of a Child. Many nations, including Canada, dedicate today to the welfare of all children. The Minister of Public Safety's recent direction recognized that the primary consideration in all state actions concerning children is the best interest of the child, and that the detention of a minor is a measure of last resort. Canada should work to persuade nations with whom we have strong ties to end practices such as blindfolding, denial of access to parental and legal advice, administrative detention, and segregation of minors. Those are no ways to treat a child. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
J'ai l'honneur
I have the honor to inform the House that the Clerk of the House has received from the Acting Chief Electoral Officer a certificate of the election and return of Mr. Hébert, member for the Electoral District of Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to present to you Richard Hébert, member for the Electoral District of Lac-Saint-Jean, who has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take his seat.
I have the honor to present to you Mr. Richard Hébert, member for the Electoral District of Lac-Saint-Jean, who has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take his seat.
Let the honourable member take his seat.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, ISIS terrorists are criminals who fought against our country, but they are now being welcomed back to Canada by the Prime Minister with the promise of reintegration services to help them. Now, Canadians are shocked and alarmed that their government is not taking any steps to protect them. This is the #1 job of any government. So will the Prime Minister stand today and tell us exactly how many ISIS fighters have returned to Canada and how many of those are currently in jail or under government surveillance?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of the top priorities of any government is to ensure the safety and security of Canadians, and we ensure that every day. Our national security agencies are combating the phenomenon of Canadians participating in terrorist activities overseas. We use a number of tools to address the threat posed by these individuals, including the Passenger Protect program, cancelling, revoking or refusing passports, and laying criminal charges. Our national security agencies are carefully monitoring these individuals, and our law enforcement agencies do the difficult work of collecting evidence required for convictions in Canadian courts.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Who got on a plane to fight for ISIS and watched as our allied soldiers were burned to death in a cage. Yes. These are people who got on a plane to go fight for an organization that sells women and girls into slavery. These are people who left Canada to go and fight for a group of people who push homosexuals off of buildings just for being gay. So can the Prime Minister explain to the House exactly what kind of a program, a reintegration service would look like for the people who commit these kinds of atrocities?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take very seriously the protection of Canadians and will continue to. We also continue to carefully monitor trends in extremist travel, and in our national security agencies work together to ensure our response reflects the current threat environment. We recognize the return of even one individual may have serious national security implications. But we have launched the Canada Centre for Community Engagement and Prevention of Violence, which helps ensure resources are in place to facilitate disengagement from violent ideologies. In particular, children who return from conflict zones require tailored support.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives fought for the Liberal government to recognize the genocide committed against the Yazidis by the Islamic State and to bring members of that community to Canada. But now we're talking about reintegration services for combatants of the Islamic State who attacked the Yazidis. Why does the Prime Minister have so much difficulty supporting victims, and can he tell us exactly how many terrorists from the Islamic State have come back to Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the work of every member of this House is to ensure that we can welcome hundreds of families and children of Yazidis, to demonstrate that we are welcoming of people who are victims of terrorism. At the same time, we want to make sure that we protect and defend all Canadians by making sure that there is a follow-up on people who return from abroad, and we are going to monitor them. We are also there to help them to let go of that terrorist ideology. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, order. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the Prime Minister for this historic accomplishment. For the first time, a Prime Minister and his Minister of Finance are under investigation for having broken ethics laws after the Minister of Finance had been found guilty and fined for having broken those laws. How can Canadians trust this Prime Minister who promises to maintain the highest standards? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I've always said that on this side of the House we take our responsibilities very seriously when it comes to ethics and transparency and accountability. That is why we trust the Ethics Commissioner. The members of the opposition are attacking the integrity of the Ethics Commissioner and her work. We have always worked with her to make sure that Canadians can trust the work that she does and the work that we all do in this House, and to be worthy of Canadians' trust.
Of the opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are very concerned about the revelations contained in the Paradise Papers. And the Canada Revenue Agency indicated that they would treat all allegations seriously and investigate every potential breach of Canadian law. But the Prime Minister chatted with his friend, Stephen Bronfman, and received assurances. And he said, quote, "We are satisfied." So my question is, who is the Prime Minister speaking for? Was he speaking for the Canada Revenue Agency? Was he speaking for the Government of Canada? Or has he just started taking to using royal pronouns?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government takes very seriously the responsibility of going after tax avoidance and tax evasion. That's why we've invested close to $500 million over the past, close to $1 billion over the past 2 years to ensure that people are all paying their fair share of taxes. That has resulted in significant actions, and we are in the process of recovering $25 billion of monies avoided and evaded. This is what Canadians expect, and that is what we are going to continue to do.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata, Les Basques. Mr. Speaker, for weeks, the Minister of Finance has repeated that he didn't break the law and that he followed all the rules, even when the Ethics Commissioner fined him because he had broken the law. He kept saying that he had done nothing wrong. Now, the Ethics Commissioner confirmed that she has started an investigation of his involvement in the tabling of Bill C-27. How can the Prime Minister continue to defend his minister while he is under official investigation? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Ethics Commissioner exists in order to decide on the effect beyond partisanship and beyond the attacks of the opposition on the government. We, on this side of the House, have every confidence in the work and the integrity of the Ethics Commissioner, and it's unfortunate to see members of the party on this side to attack the integrity of a parliamentary institution. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata, Les Basques. When I look at the involvement of the Minister of Finance in Bill C-27, everyone sees the same thing. All the opposition parties flag problems, and today we found out that Canada Post Union for its retirees, raised the same concerns to the Commissioner. I teach my children to take responsibility for their actions, and I'm sure that the Prime Minister does the same thing with his children. Is he going to ask any less of the Minister of Finance? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we expect for every member of this House to work with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that we are worthy of Canadians' trust. That is what, on this side of the House, including the Minister of Finance, has always done. We have always worked with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to make sure we follow her advice. And on this side, we have trust in the integrity and the work of the Ethics Commissioner.
Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, it seems this Prime Minister will walk across broken glass to defend his ethically embattled Finance Minister, but won't lift a finger to help out Canadian pensioners. Bill C-27 is not only a clear attack on workers' pensions, it's also a massive conflict of interest. The opposition hears it and raises concerns. Liberals refuse to. Canadians see it and Liberals ignore it. Ethics Commissioner is speaking about it, but Liberals won't even mention it. She's launched an official investigation into this minister and this bill. So will the Prime Minister maybe update his hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil ethics code?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I sat in this House for many years, at the same time as a member from Skeena Bulkley Valley, listening to the previous Conservative government attack the institutions of Parliament, the commissioners of Parliament, and the frameworks that supported our democracy. It was disappointing to hear him this weekend go after the Ethics Commissioner, impugn her integrity and her capacity to do her job. I think we all would expect better from the New Democratic Party.
Honourable member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
But he would never take personal cheap shots at anybody in this place. So the Liberal ethics saga continues, with even more information coming out about the Finance Minister's clear conflict of interest with Bill C-27. So let's go through the facts. As CEO of Morna Chappelle, he took over Mercer Canada, who manages the pensions of 93,000 Canada Post workers and retirees. Guess who stands to benefit if Bill C-27 becomes law? Well, Morna Chappelle, owned by the previous Finance Minister. So I guess he stood to make boatloads of money. He knew exactly what he was doing when he took this benefit. Now that the Prime Minister knows the same thing, will he stop defending?
All right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, it's disappointing to see the opposition has nothing but cheap shots and slinging mud when this government is focused on working with the Ethics Commissioner, but mostly focused on delivering the kind of growth for the middle class that Canadians voted for 2 years ago. We're demonstrating the highest growth rate in the G7. We're demonstrating hundreds of thousands of jobs. We're demonstrating low unemployment rate. We're delivering on the kind of real change that Canadians voted for 2 years ago.
It's such a tranquil week. Alors,
Order. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, while he was President of Morna Chappelle, the Minister of Finance participated in 2015 in a forum on pension plan reform that supported measures that are now included in Bill C-27. In the days following the presentation of his bill, the Minister of Finance's shares shot up by nearly $1 million. It's not surprising that the Minister of Finance is now the subject of an official investigation by the Ethics Commissioner. Simple question, when the Minister of Finance tabled his bill, did the Prime Minister know that the Minister of Finance was entirely in a position of conflict of interest? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to work for Canadians throughout our country to make sure that they can have a retirement with dignity. At the same time, I'm going to work with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that her review will be complete. In my opinion, I need to continue to help Canadians to have a dignified retirement, and that's the goal here. The member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to repeat my question and maybe I will get an answer. For nearly 2 years, the Minister of Finance owned shares worth about $21 million, which he never put in a blind trust. He supported a pension plan reform that would serve his own interests and those of his little Liberal friends. And now we have the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance who are being investigated by the Ethics Commissioner. Mr. Speaker, how can Canadian men and women still trust this government on the other side of the House? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to work with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that I have no conflicts of interest. I've sold all my shares in Morna Chappelle. That was one way to make sure that I cannot have a conflict of interest. And it is certainly the case now.
The mess these Liberals get themselves into just never seems to end. It is now confirmed that the Finance Minister is under investigation by the Ethics Commissioner for the fact that he benefited from legislation that he personally introduced. Incredibly, we have 3 cabinet ministers from this government currently under investigation, including the Prime Minister, who's still being investigated for his billionaire holiday, and the Finance Minister being investigated for the second time. With all of these investigations, how can these Liberals be trusted?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I will continue to work to assure that Canadians can retire in dignity. I will continue to work with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that her examination is complete. Now that I've sold all my Morneau Chappelle shares and made a large donation to charity, I'm looking forward to continuing these efforts on behalf of Canadians.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
This ethical scandal that the Finance Minister finds himself in may only be the tip of the iceberg. The only reason that everybody knows that the Minister of Finance benefited from C-27 is because the media forced him to disclose that he held shares in Morneau Chappelle. But the Minister is still hiding what other shares he held in other companies over the last 2 years, and what other government decisions he made that benefited him. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off, Mr. Speaker. Let's get this out in the open. What shares did the Minister of Finance own in what companies over the last 2 years?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, I made 100% disclosure of all my assets to the Ethics Commission. That allows me to work on behalf of Canadians. And the work is going well, Mr. Speaker. Over the last couple of years, we've seen an enormous change in growth rates in this country. We've seen more than 500,000 new jobs for Canadians. Canadians have a higher level of confidence because they have more money for their families. We will continue the work for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, because that's what we were elected to do.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
The minister just said that now that he has sold all of his shares in Morneau Chappelle, he can now work on behalf of Canadians. What does that say about the last 2 years while he held those shares? During that time, he introduced a bill creating the very targeted benefit pension plans that his company designs and profits from. That's right. His whole defense has been that he's always asked the Ethics Commissioner for her permission. Did he have her permission to introduce this bill?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, I will continue to work on behalf of Canadians. That's the important work that we're doing. By working with the Ethics Commissioner, as I've done from day one, that allows us to assure that we don't have conflicts of interest. We know that what we can do now is continue on the work, as I've talked about. The work that's, for example, lowered the rate of unemployment to the lowest it's been since the Great Recession, so that Canadian families can actually do well and see the fruits of the advantage for them and their families.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Target benefit pensions are highly specialized as a financial product. Not only is Morneau Chappelle one of the only that provides it, it is the company that designed the very unique model in New Brunswick that inspired the bill that the minister introduced in the House of Commons, which means it is uniquely positioned to profit from it. The minister keeps hiding behind the Ethics Commissioner. So, yes or no, did the minister have permission from the Ethics Commissioner to introduce a bill that would profit his company?
Yes or no? The Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I really do care deeply about retirement dignity in this country. I want to make sure that Canadians have the ability to retire with the kind of opportunity they have to continue their life in dignity after they retire. And that means assuring that they have really good pension plans, that they have more options than just defined contribution pension plans. We will continue to work on behalf of Canadians because we know that that's what they want us to do. Absolutely.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' Bill C-27 opens the door for Crown corporations and federally regulated employers to convert secure, defined benefit pension plans into less secure plans. In fact, before the Finance Minister was in Cabinet, he spent his career advocating for shifting pension risk from employer to employee, and then presented a plan to do exactly that with Bill C-27. How can the Liberals continue to say we're standing up for the middle class? Mr. Speaker, it's simple. Will the Liberals actually do what's right for working Canadians and withdraw this shameful bill?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party, the government, will continue to defend Canadians in defined benefit plans. We think that's critically important. We also know that for the 85% of private sector workers that don't have defined benefit plans, that they need options too. So we will continue to provide options that enable people to have a retirement and dignity, and that will include multiple options, including defined benefit plans and other arrangements that make sense for their situation.
Député de Jonquière.
Honourable Member for Jonquière. Transferring the employer's risk to employees is not called working for the middle class. It's working for the rich friends of people in power. Mr. Speaker, we've known from the beginning that Bill C-27 was bad for working men and women. Unions and workers throughout the entire country agree to say that it must be stopped. Besides being a bad bill, the Minister of Finance clearly put himself in a position of conflict of interest, such that the Ethics Commissioner decided to investigate. The Liberals should never have tabled that bill. Will they now fix this mistake and withdraw it? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work for Canadians in order to make sure that they can retire with dignity. That's very important. For the 85% of workers in the public sector who don't have a defined benefit plan, it's necessary to have other options. We are going to continue to work for them and every member of the middle class. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claimed he had a better way of doing accountability and transparency and ministerial independence. But the PM didn't miss a beat preempting a transparent investigation by the Revenue Minister regarding questions raised by the Paradise Papers about offshore tax avoidance, tax evasion, and links to Chief Liberal bagman Stephen Bronfman. The PM says he's satisfied with his bagman's explanation. So can the Prime Minister or the Minister confirm that Mr. Bronfman is not under investigation?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National
Mr. Speaker, our government is fully committed to combating tax evasion and abusive tax avoidance. In our first two budgets, we invested historic sums to make sure that we have the right tools to crack down on tax evaders. Our plan is already producing results, Mr. Speaker. We've had 627 cases transferred to criminal investigation, 268 search warrants executed, 78 convictions. And in regards to the Panama Papers, Mr. Speaker, the CIA is reviewing links to Canadian entities and will take any appropriate action. And we will continue to work to ensure that we have a tax system that works for every Canadian. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party's money man has money in tax havens, according to the Paradise Papers, and casts doubt on the legality and ethics of not contributing to the middle class's tax effort. After these usual checks done by the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister seems fine with the explanations of his advisors. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister influence the Canada Revenue Agency to sweep the Liberal Party's friend and money man issue under the rug?
Mr. Speaker, our government recognizes the importance of fight against international tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. This was both highlighted in our election platform and in Minister's mandate letter. We are working towards a tax system which is fair for all Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The agency is working extremely closely with international partners to obtain the list of Canadian taxpayers who may be involved. The CRA is reviewing links to the Canadian entities and will take any appropriate action. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, the disability tax credit and the pension plans for persons with disabilities are a critical help to those struggling with type 1 diabetes. I received letters from thousands across our country, like 18-year-old Michael, who talked about the $100 per day expenses he has to pay out of pocket to manage this disease. Why doesn't the minister do her job and go after Liberals hiding money offshore rather than targeting type 1 diabetics?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let me be absolutely clear. The eligibility criteria for disability tax credit has not changed. Our government recognizes the impact that diabetes has on the health of Canadians, and that is why we're making investments in research, prevention, and early detection for diabetes so that fewer Canadians develop the condition and better treatments are available when it occurs. In budget 2015-2016, the Canadian Institute of Health Research invested over $41 million in diabetes research. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to support Canadians with diabetes because that's what Canadians expect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Autrements-Lévis. How is it that, Mr. Speaker, that if more than 1,000 people who have type 1 diabetes are being denied their tax credit, are seeing their disability pension plan being cut, whereas the party seems to be supporting people with big pockets who have money in tax havens? I want to know when people who are having trouble be put forward.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure this House that our government is absolutely committed to ensuring that all Canadians receive the credits and benefits that they're entitled to. We are moving forward with the National Disability Act that will remove barriers and improve access for all Canadians who live with disabilities. We have made the disability tax credit more accessible than ever before. We have simplified the forms required to apply for the credit. We have added nurse practitioners to complete the applications of their partners, and we have just started, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to focus on supporting the most vulnerable in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, the minister in charge of the Phoenix fiasco has not denied that the cost of reparation could surpass $1 billion. The number of affected public servants continues to grow, and there's no clear timeline to fix it. In fact, the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada has said that Phoenix is not fixable. For 2 years, Liberals have not listened to warnings from public servants and their unions. It's time for Plan B. Will the minister commit today to working with our public servants so that they can be paid properly?
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Harper Conservatives botched this program from the beginning. While the previous government spent $309 million on the systems, booked savings of $70 million per year, and let go hundreds of employees in order to falsely balance their budget.
Order. 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 Alors. Most members in all parties can sit through a question period and hear things they disagree with and dislike without having to react. And all members should be able to do this because, after all, we're all adults here. The Honourable Minister has the floor. Doesn't matter.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been on this since day one. We are focusing on our partnerships. We are focusing on improving our governments. We have invested $192 million to clean up that mess and hired 380 employees to ensure public servants are paid the money they're owed.
The member for Edmonton West and others did not hear me, and I asked them not to react when someone else has the floor. I know they have great voices and lots to say, but I prefer to hear them. We all want to hear them when it's their turn. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we didn't create this mess, but we're going to fix it.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, Phoenix was supposed to save us $70 million per year. But in the end, it could cost us over $1 billion. This government has no deadline, and the number of public servants affected is only increasing. What a fiasco. So, facing this fiasco, the Professional Institute of Public Servants of Canada is calling on the government to find alternative solutions by working with public servants and unions. Will this government finally listen, or will they ignore this request yet again? The Honourable Minister of Public Services. Mr. Speaker, Stephen Harper's Conservatives botched this issue from the very beginning. They botched the update of the software while also laying off hundreds of workers, and this led to many workers not being paid on time. We inherited this defective system from the Conservatives, but we are determined to find a permanent solution and to stabilize this system. It's not an easy job, but we know that it will take time, but we will do it.
Riverdale, Langley City.
Across Canada have been experiencing the devastating effects of gun violence and gang activity. Criminal gangs are responsible for rising numbers of killings, often involving guns illegally smuggled into the country. It's a tragedy when young Canadians get involved in gang activity, and of course it's a tragedy when innocent bystanders are caught in the crossfire. Can the Minister of Public Safety tell us what the government is doing to address this scourge and to keep our communities safe?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my thanks to the member for Cloverdale-Langley City for all of his hard work. On Friday, I was in Surrey to announce $327.6 million in federal funding over 5 years and $100 million annually thereafter to help communities and law enforcement reduce gun and gang violence. We'll also be holding a national summit next spring for stakeholders across the country to tackle this problem and identify the best solutions. By working together, we will all do a better job of combating gang violence and building safer communities.
The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Earlier, the Prime Minister said even one ISIS fighter represents a security threat to Canada, and then he hid the number of ISIS fighters who have returned here. When asked about how he planned to manage this threat, he then said, the government is there to help them let go of their terrorist ideology. Mr. Speaker, what he should have said is that there will be consequences when choosing to fight for a terrorist death cult. Where is the Prime Minister's commitment to seek justice for the victims of ISIS, and how many ISIS fighters have returned to Canada?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, CSIS, the RCMP, and CBSA pay very close attention to anyone who poses a threat to the security of Canada. We work closely with allies in the Five Eyes and the G7. Surveillance and investigations are tight and thorough. When evidence is actually available, charges are laid, and a range of other legal measures are also available under the Criminal Code and the CSIS Act. As the director of CSIS indicated before a parliamentary committee some months ago, the number of returnees known to the Government of Canada is in the order of 60, and they're under very careful investigation.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, 60 Islamic State combatants have returned to Canada after fighting our Canadian and allied soldiers. Well, that's a lot of nerve. Now we've learned from the Minister's office that the return of these terrorist travelers and their families requires appropriate support when it comes to disengagement and resettlement. This is just unbelievable. Does the Minister realize that his job is to protect the safety of Canadians, not to help the comfort of murderers?
Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman should know very well that the security agencies of this country and the police forces of this country do an extraordinary job in defending the safety and security of Canadians, and also in fulfilling all of Canada's obligations with respect to the international coalition against Daesh. When evidence is discovered that indicates that offences against Canada have been committed, that evidence is put together in cases that are filed in court. When prosecutions are possible, they are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Mr. Speaker, the Public Safety Minister should make sure they're all arrested and prosecuted now. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has admitted that his policy to cut the pay for injured soldiers is having negative consequences, but he refuses to do anything about it. While the Prime Minister defends his billionaire friends, he has already targeted Canadians suffering from diabetes, cut the danger pay for our troops fighting ISIS, and now has removed the allowances for ill and injured soldiers. All of this to pay for the Prime Minister's out-of-control spending. Will the Prime Minister show some appreciation and respect for the sacrifices being made by our troops and reverse this cold-hearted political policy?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring that our military members receive fair pay, a compensation for their services to Canada. Mr. Speaker, and defence policy has put the emphasis on making sure that our members are well supported. This is why our government has recently approved a 6.34% pay raise for most of its members. These allowances have also been increased by 5.1%. Mr. Speaker, we will make sure that we look after our number one asset, which is our women and men in the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, on the one hand, the Minister says that we should help resettle these murderers who fought with ISIS to try to kill our own soldiers. On the other hand, they cancel the monthly service benefit for wounded Canadian soldiers who fought bravely for our country. Can the Minister tell us why there's this lack of respect for Canada's military heroes?
The Minister of National Defence.
when we conducted our defence policy review, Mr. Speaker, Canadians told us that making sure we looked after our Canadian Armed Forces, making sure that they're well funded. And now with our new defence policy, Mr. Speaker, we have probably the most well-funded defence policy since World War II, making sure that our men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces has the funding that's needed, and making sure, Mr. Speaker, we have the right personnel to look after them. A more than a 70% increase by 2026, Mr. Speaker. We're making sure that our women and men are looked after for the near future, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Despite years of advocacy from coastal communities, the Liberals' Bill C-64 doesn't legislate on the most pressing aspects of the abandoned vessel problem. And last week, another boat sank in Ladysmith. For too long, federal failures have left coastal communities with nowhere to turn. That's why my bill includes their solutions and fills gaps in the government's new bill. But in unprecedented interference, Liberal members are blocking debate on my abandoned vessel legislation. Why is the Trudeau government stifling coastal voices?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, it would be totally inappropriate for me to comment on decisions taken by the Procedures and House Affairs Committee. Having said that, I would like to say that we're extremely proud of Bill C-64, which is a comprehensive strategy to deal with abandoned vessels and derelict vessels, and it is something that all of the government should support.
I just want to remind our members not to use the name of a member of the House, even in relation when you're talking to the Government of Canada or whatever. The
Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, last week the government announced its contribution to the UN for peacekeeping missions. It was a condescending offer, according to our former Canadian commander of peacekeeping in Bosnia. Only 1/3 of the number of troops initially promised, and they'll be sent to locations that are still to be determined, and there are no police officers either. So we don't know if this is even a real promise or just another promise that's going to be broken. So, does the government think that it will get a seat on the Security Council if it doesn't even respect its commitments? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Canada's participation in peacekeeping missions is important for us. We have well-trained and competent officers, and we want our contribution to be used as well as possible. This means using the expertise where it is most needed. Canadians expect us to make a strong, well-thought-out contribution to peacekeeping missions, and that's what we're going to do.
Member for Niagara West.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister decided to surprise world leaders and was a no-show at the TPP meeting.
Shame.
The Trade Minister was left alone with 10 presidents and prime ministers trying to explain where the Prime Minister was. Because of this snub, Canada is now being blocked from joining the East Asia Summit. An Australia official said that the leaders were gobsmacked at the Prime Minister's behaviour. Is this what the Liberals meant when they said Canada is back? What happened?
The Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is a strong supporter of progressive free trade, and Asia-Pacific is an important region and a priority market for our government. During the last APEC meeting, tangible progress was made towards a possible agreement, including locking in enforceable provisions on labour and on the environment, and the suspension of an IP package that was not in Canada's interest. But there is still some work to be done. Our priority is to ensure that it's the right deal for Canadians, workers and businesses. Our government looks forward to continuing negotiation on outstanding amendments, but will not rush into an agreement that is not in the interest of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister torpedoed the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now will they delay Canadian ranchers are paying a 50% duty on frozen beef exports to Japan, something they wouldn't have to face if the Trans-Pacific Partnership was in place. Farmers are tired of being ignored by this Liberal government, unless, of course, they're looking to raise tax revenue. In fact, farmers do not trust the Liberals to represent them on the world stage. When will the Prime Minister gain critical access to the Asia-Pacific market for Canadian agriculture? When will he sign the TPP?
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure that Canadians trust this government when it comes to international trade. Our government is committed to free and fair trade that is progressive, will grow the economy and help the middle class. Over the course of the APEC meeting, our government made real progress toward a possible agreement. Environment and labor rights will form crucial pillars of a new agreement and will be subject to dispute settlement mechanisms. However, there are still a number of issues that remain outstanding for Canada. We are committed to fostering open markets, creating good middle-class jobs. That's what Canadians expect from this government. That's what we'll deliver.
The honourable member for Durham, I know, knows the rule in Standing Order 18 against interrupting, and I'm sure he won't want to be doing that anymore.
The honourable member for Mégantic-Érable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are wondering, is defending supply management just another promise that the Liberals don't intend to keep? Will supply management end up in the file labelled working on it, challenging, just like balancing the budget? Our dairy, egg, and chicken producers depend on supply management for their livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Agriculture is absent from all of the negotiating tables for all of our international agreements. This shows how little the government cares about supply management and agriculture. When will the Prime Minister make a place for the Minister of Agriculture and defend supply management once and for all? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we remain committed with other TPP member countries following the meeting on that subject. We will not accept just any old agreement. We want a good agreement for Canada. There's still work to be done so that we can get that deal. We are the party that fought to implement supply management, and we will continue to defend and protect it. We have always said that we have an excellent system in place. This is a model that provides stability. Our government is committed to growing exports by $75 million by 2050, so that we'll have more money for our farmers. The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, as a former teacher, I've had the exceptional opportunity to work with young people in my riding of Saint-Laurent and to develop good relationships with their families. Today, because we're celebrating National Child Day, could the Minister responsible for families, children and social development tell us about this government's commitment to children and their families? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am thrilled to congratulate my colleague, the member for Saint-Laurent, for working together with families and children. Our government believes that all children deserve to live with dignity and to have a chance to flourish. That's why we set up the Canada Child Benefit, which has reduced child poverty by 40% in this country. We've also set up a historic agreement with provinces and territories to increase accessibility and affordability of child care and educational services across the country. Mr. Speaker, our children are our most precious resource. We are very eager to continue working for them so that everyone will have an equal and real chance of succeeding. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the film 23.5 taught us that the former Minister of Families is currently working for the ECN. This is a conflict of interest. Why? Because we know that there is currently a conflict between Quebec and the CN. So the Minister says, well, I'm not responsible for that. I'm the Minister of Families. But he commented 19 times on this file. And on August 31st, he even emitted a communique where he commented on the Quebec Bridge. Can the Minister of Families comment on this? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to be part of a government that believes that the trust of its citizens is important. Ethics rules are well known and understood by all members of Cabinet, and as far as the Ethics Commissioner is concerned, her guidelines and directives were scrupulously followed. And that's the end of the story. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, it's been in a month and a half that all of the sectors have denounced the lack of action on the part of the government. Now it's the print media that are criticizing the government. They published an open letter today, and they're wondering about the crisis because half of their jobs have disappeared in the last 10 years. All the ministers proposed is benefits for Google and Facebook. Is she going to propose something concrete to deal with the threat to journalism, because it's also threatening our democracy? The Honourable Minister of Heritage. Mr. Speaker, high-quality journalism is the basis of our democracy. All throughout our consultations, Canadians told us two things. First, Having access to local news, local journalism is very important. And secondly, increasingly they're using digital platforms to have access to that content. What we're going to do first is to study how we can transition to the digital era, but I would also remind my colleague that in terms of concrete actions, we've invested more than $600 million in CBC. The Honourable Member for West Nova.
Canadians understand that we live in a complex and ever-changing global security environment. They expect the government to work diligently to make the world a safer, more peaceful, and more prosperous place for them and their families. This past weekend, the Minister of National Defence wrapped up the 9th annual Halifax International Security Forum, which gathered approximately 350 defence leaders from around the world. Can the Minister of National Defence please inform this House on the outcome of this year's forum?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from West Nova for the question and his hard work. This year's Halifax International Security Forum was a great success in facilitating important discussions and innovative thinking on global security challenges. I had the chance to discuss important issues with our partners and allies, including increasing women's role in peacekeeping. We also discussed international security issues such as North Korea and its nuclear weapons program, and assertive Russia and global terrorism. I'm proud of the work we accomplished and would like to thank all our allies and partners for their participation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, this government is in the process of passing an airline passenger bill of rights, which says it's a right for a child to be seated next to their parent on an airline. But because they refuse to fix the no-fly list, some of those kids won't even be allowed on the plane, let alone beside their parent, Mr. Speaker. Not only is that incredibly unfair to thousands of Canadian families, it's a sign that our security measures are flawed, Mr. Speaker. When will this minister commit to a redress system so these children can get off our no-fly list?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, that process is underway. The honourable gentleman will know that debate has begun in this House on Bill C-59. Bill C-59 gives us the legal authority to do exactly what he has suggested in his question. We will need to adjust regulations. We'll also need to rebuild the computer system in order to accommodate a fully interactive, government-controlled system instead of the flawed system that his government introduced a number of years ago.
The Honourable. Order. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher les Patriotes. Order. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, as of November 27th, blades of 6 centimeters or less, excluding razor blades and X-Acto knives, will be allowed on airplanes. Well, strangely enough, this means that ceremonial knives, like the kirpan, will now be allowed. This exemption is tailored to please religious groups, who immediately applauded the decision. Is the Minister of Transport telling us that, to him, religious dictates are more important than passenger safety? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, as you know, passenger safety and the security of our air transport network is a priority. From time to time, we review the list of articles and products that are allowed or not allowed on planes, and we made the decision to accept blades of up to 6 centimeters in length, or if you prefer, 2.5 inches. They're now allowed on airplanes, and that is to align ourselves with international standards. It's no more complicated than that. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bécancour, Nicolas Sorel. Mr. Speaker, the list of forbidden articles for transportation includes hair gel, water bottles, baby powder, and bath salts, but not ceremonial knives. That's allowed. Now, they're not allowed in the U.S., but they're allowed in Canada. No problem. Will the minister do his homework and review the list of forbidden articles once again and recognize that knives are more dangerous than baby powder? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would have liked my colleague to read the document that I put out last week. I've already spoken about the blades of 6 centimeters or less. In the case of baby powder or bath salts, he should know that the limit is now 350 milliliters. So that's about the size of a can of Coke. If he needs more than a can of Coke's worth of baby powder for his trip, maybe he can come see me. It's always good to see everyone in good spirits. Order.
What a great move. Okay. The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to address a question about climate change. We've just come through the COP23 discussions in Bonn. Canada did very well. There was leadership, but we still ended up with quite mediocre results. And a lot of hopes are being pinned on the upcoming Climate Leaders Summit in Paris, being hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, I understand the Prime Minister has been taken by official business out of the country a lot lately, but I wonder what his views are, especially with the upcoming opportunity in chairing the G7. Will the Prime Minister consider going to the Climate Leaders Summit?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that climate change is a global problem that requires global solutions. I'm proud of our international leadership over the past 2 years to address climate change, including the ratification of the Paris Agreement, the amendment to the Montreal Protocol to phase down highly polluted HFCs, and the historic agreement to address greenhouse gas emissions from the aviation sector. I'm also proud to say that the Canadian delegation will be ably led by the Minister of Environment and Climate Change to the One Planet Summit. I know that by working together, we will achieve our international commitments as laid out in the Paris Agreement.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the recipients of the 2017 Governor-General's History Awards. It's a long list, so bear with me, please. But stand as I call their names, please. Leah Lang, Naomi Fortier-Fresson, Mackenzie Anderson, Alexander Unaluak, Kay Dawn Martin, Denise Lipscomb, Daniel Francis, Glenn Thielman, Ellie Hooker, David Swanson, Marie-Ève Gingras, Michel Arnois, Chief Dominic Frederick, Tracy Calagiros, Isaac Landry, Maureen Matthews, Linda Brown, Armand Doucette, Rob Flosman, Janet Rouet, Mark Mayo.
Order. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Hubert, point of order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question was put on a conflict of interest, and the Minister of Families said that he had scrupulously followed the recommendations of the Ethics Commissioner. So that everything is absolutely clear, I know the member is an honourable member. Could we have consent from the House for him to table the recommendations that were provided, including the letter from the former Chief of Staff, to confirm this? This is not a point of order, and we will now continue with tabling of documents.